Everyone, it's Coach Rick. So Isabella had a question that was pretty good. I have an upcoming hiking excursion going to Devil's Lake, and we're going to start training in about 2 weeks. The excursion will take place the 3rd week of October, but it's important to always train. Now, this concept of training, I'm on a treadmill now, and the treadmill has these bars that'll check your pulse rate. I think it's good to stay in the zone. So if you're not sure, the heart rate can be divided into a couple different color zones. I think some of you in Illinois at least will know about something called orange theory. Orange is a color zone where you're really fast heart rate. And that's good for being able to tolerate more abuse later. So that sounds like a bad way to think about it, but in many cases when your heart can tolerate fast bursts of tachycardia, number one, your perceived exertion will be cool. You'll be able to say, not a big deal. Two, it is good to exercise because the high flow actually is very clearing of the things in the bloodstream that have to get from muscle to liver and then from liver to brain. So it's important to have or sustain a good heart rate. Now, typically you're supposed to do 220 minus your age and take about 60-80% of that number, and that's your zone. But in hiking, especially if you have to do this for prolonged amount of hours, you got to really be careful. The faster your heart goes, that's a muscle, the faster your heart goes, the more heat you're going to generate in your core. And going at elevation changes, about 1,000 feet every hour to 2 hours, if you're conservative, you're going to probably have a change in temperature. I mean, external environmental temperature, so you might or might not have to vent your heat off, but you'll have a couple layers most likely. Now when you have that and you're working with the environment to keep yourself at a stable core temp, and then you throw in fast heart rate and that muscle gets hotter and hotter, it can actually heat you up to the point where you start sweating. If you're encased in a waterproof jacket, pants, a thermal, a mid-layer, a hat, and you start to get sweaty, you're going to have a problem with hydration sooner or later. And plus, when your clothes get sweaty, that's the end of the hike. Because if you happen to go downhill in the middle of the night and your clothes are wet, that will be hypothermia. So you got to be careful. That's why I think it's important to manifest 100. That's beats per minute. I think 100, maybe 110, if you're attacking a hill, would be fine. You'll find that if you're short of breath and your heart rate is really fast, that's enough to say, forget the group, just take a break. Water breaks frequently are okay, but that's a good measure to watch your perceived exertion. Your hiking leader should be able to keep eyes on and see who's falling behind. That's a good leader, but I don't know who you're hiking with. If you're coming with me, I'll take care of you. And I know CPR, not that I had to do that, but I've led a few excursions to high altitude, and I've been trained in wilderness first aid, so you're safe. But if you're going to try to just do some training locally, I think it's important to consider, let me turn this down, so I'm getting heated up, and to take my heart rate, I'll tell you what I'm doing now. So I was walking at 2.5 miles per hour at a 10% incline in my street shoes. I just shot a video. But I wanted to do this video because I think it's important. And I don't have a problem with exercising in my street clothes. But my pulse rate is about 130. I would not want to sustain that if I was attacking a hill or continuously driving uphill. That's got to stop. I would brake somewhere, or if you can't brake because you don't want to get separated, the group has to slow down to meet and keep the slowest hiker safe. So that's the problem if you have a bunch of different hikers that don't train together. The group travels at the speed of the slowest hiker because you can't leave that person alone. So the hiking guide has to keep eyes on the delegate, but also the hiking guide also has to be pacing the entire group and watching out for signs of dehydration or fatigue. So Giselle, hopefully this is a little bit informative. Come to my excursion. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about your backpacks, your hydration, how often we're going to take a break, and even pre-workout or pre-hike fuel. So come to the sign up because the spaces are going fast, and I'll teach you all that stuff later. Good luck.